New tonight on KGW News, the warning from skiers who triggered a backcountry avalanche. Plus,
we want to make sure that in Oregon, constitutional rights are protected.
How some Oregon lawmakers are planning new pushback when it comes to President Trump's immigration crackdown. And
get ready for poor visibility and give yourself extra time as you head out on your morning commute, because we're going to be looking at dense fog up and down the I-5 corridor.
Then what you need to do, and we're talking tomorrow morning for a chance at tickets to the 2028 Olympics. And later, all for a good cause, why a group of Oregon seniors have decided to bear it all. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. First tonight, some Oregon lawmakers are hoping to pass several new laws aimed at protecting people, they say, from a surge in immigration enforcement and the tactics used by ICE and other agencies. Alma McCarty's here. And Alma, one of these proposals would allow Oregonians to sue under certain circumstances.
Yeah, David, that is one of the bills that lawmakers plan to introduce during this short session, which is really just 3 weeks away. They're limited not only on time, but on the number of bills they can introduce.
Over the last several days, Oregonians have turned up for candlelight vigils and demonstrations.
We're worse off as our community has a sense of fear, and it resonates through so many families.
Speaking out against ICE and an apparent escalation in actions from federal agents.
I've been getting a lot of calls from people that feel unsafe and that are wondering what their legislators are doing to protect them.
Representative Leslie Munoz is taking these concerns to the state capitol and planning to introduce what she calls the Protect Your Door Act. The first part of it allowing Oregonians to sue individual agents who cause them harm.
The bill would allow for people who, for example, if your window gets broken on your car and then, it's discovered that there wasn't a reason to detain you, you're stuck with the bill. And so what my bill would do is make sure that people are able to sue the federal government for that window, for any bodily harm that they cause if you end up in the hospital.
And the second part of the bill, she says, would require the feds to give a 48-hour notice to local authorities about ICE raids happening in the area.
Right now, there's a big fear of, people putting on masks or conducting a kidnapping and us thinking that it's a legitimate operation.
In Salem,
regardless of your position on the tactics being deployed, the reality is that our schools are being impacted and absenteeism is up.
Representative Sarah Finger McDonald plans on introducing legislation about ICE and schools, bringing up the bill concept during committee Tuesday.
It is a simple bill. When our schools, colleges, and universities verify that ICE or other immigration agents are on their grounds, they let the school community know.
ICE has made arrests near local schools in the past few months. And in at least one case, an ICE agent was asked to leave school grounds after telling administrators they were conducting surveillance.
There was a long-standing policy that immigration agents would not target sensitive locations like schools, but that policy has been discarded.
In prior coverage, the Department of Homeland Security has told us, quote, ICE is not conducting enforcement operations at or raiding schools, but said the administration would not tie an officer's hands if they needed to make an arrest on campus.
Tomorrow morning, Democratic lawmakers will hold a press conference to release more information, a comprehensive agenda when it comes to immigration enforcement and state autonomy. David?
Now, a lot to keep an eye on. Thanks, Alma. Appreciate it. Meanwhile, in Yamhill County tonight, city councilors in McMinnville talked about possible steps they could take to try to protect immigrant families. This evening, they heard public testimony, much of it from high school students who said their classmates are worried they or their families will be detained by ICE.
Standing up for immigrant families is not just about policy. It's about humanity, dignity, and the belief that everyone deserves a chance to learn without fear.
So one of the options on the table, helping notify families when loved ones are taken by ICE, though leaders acknowledge local police can't interfere with operations and it's unclear who would actually gather the information. Another, adding guidance to public websites and a place to file ICE-related complaints. Now, council rejected a proposal to ban drone use near public schools, saying it doesn't actually control airspace. Staff is now looking into what it can legally do before moving forward. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, President Trump is once again threatening to withhold federal funding to states They're home to sanctuary cities, including Oregon. The president says federal payments to those jurisdictions will stop as of February 1st, though he did not say exactly what kind of funding would be affected. Two of the president's previous efforts to cut off funding to sanctuary cities and states were shut down by the courts. A former Westland doctor accused of sexually abusing patients during exams now faces 5 additional charges for a total of 16 counts. The Oregon Department of Justice, which is investigating David Farley, says the new charges represent 2 additional patients, one of which was younger than 14 at the time of the alleged abuse. Farley was first criminally charged in October, though some patients filed a civil suit against him back in 2020. And Portland police are looking for the driver who injured 2 officers in a crash and then kept going. Authorities say an SUV hit a police cruiser this morning just before 3 near Southeast 148th and Stark. At the time, police say they had their lights and sirens on. Both officers went to the hospital with minor injuries. Authorities are now looking for a dark-colored Chevy Suburban. This is it, with possible front-end damage. If you spot it, you're asked to call Portland Police. Okay, let's take you outside now on this Tuesday night with dense fog rolling in. This is the view from our Salem sky camera with no Capitol building in sight. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri is here with the first look at your weather impact forecast. So, Joe, it sounds like the fog is sticking around.
Yeah, it's going to stick around tonight and a good portion of your Wednesday. I know it's kind of tough to see, but I have the Pioneer Park building camera set up. You can kind of see the clouds already starting to roll in above the east side of the state. It's going to be foggy and very cold heading into your overnight hours. Now, there could be a few spots that are going to be looking at temperatures just above the freezing mark tomorrow. Right now, we're at 37 degrees. Again, that fog, it's just going to continue to get dense and dense over the next several hours. Now, some of the advisors we have, the air stagnation advisory is also in place. Air quality alert throughout the central and eastern side of the state. There's also that dense fog advisory that's in effect from tonight all the way into tomorrow afternoon. There's a chance it gets extended because I don't think there's a chance we see much of the clouds lifting by tomorrow. So right now, visibility is at 8 miles. Well, it's going to basically reduce here in the next few hours. I bet you by tomorrow morning's commute, you're looking at a visibility down to 1/4 of a mile. That's what we're seeing in Hillsborough and McMinnville. Zero visibility along the central Oregon coast in Newport. Now, the fog is hitting the Oregon coast as well, but that is one location that will be seeing blue skies by tomorrow afternoon. In the valley, that won't be the case. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes.
Oh, good news for the coast at least. Thanks, Joe. Developing tonight, former Oregon Congresswoman turned Labor Secretary Lori Chavez-Dreamer is now reportedly accused of misconduct, from drinking in her office to having an affair with a staffer. Several national news outlets are reporting someone filed a complaint with the Department of Labor. The department would not release any details to KGW. The original report by the New York Post says that at least on 5 occasions, Chavez-Dreamer pursued an inappropriate relationship with an unnamed staff member, and that Chavez-Dreamer would drink alcohol in her office. She is also accused of abusing her position by using work trips to make personal visits to family and friends. The New York Times and Politico both reporting that the secretary's top 2 staffers are now on leave for facilitating those trips. Chavez-Dreamer was appointed as labor secretary by President Trump last year. The White House has not responded to our request for comment, but told the New York Post the accusations were, quote, baseless. New tonight, Oregon is once again suing the federal government, this time over an executive order the state's attorney general says puts funding at risk for some institutions that provide health care to transgender people. Catherine Cook's in the newsroom with those details. Catherine?
David, the executive order says federal funds can't be used to promote gender ideology, which includes anything other than a person's sex assigned at birth. Oregon AG Dan Rayfield says it would force public universities and hospitals to adopt anti-trans policies.
We need everyone in any kind of position of power to be fighting against these anti-trans legislations.
Advocates applauding Oregon, which just joined 11 other states suing the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Oregon's DOJ claims the federal agency conditioned hundreds of billions of dollars on whether or not states agree to engage in anti-trans discrimination.
In a statement, Oregon AG Dan Rayfield noted under a new HHS policy, recipients of federal health, education, and research funding must certify compliance with an executive order from President Trump that, quote, seeks to deny the existence of transgender people and impose rigid, unscientific definitions of sex.
I think right now the trans community is very scared. We're very angry because this isn't just about holding us hostage, it's about erasing us, it's about erasure.
Joelle Kim is interim executive director at the Q Center. She's grateful that Oregon is joining the lawsuit, but feels the emotional weight of those whose health care hangs in the balance.
Trans folks specifically should have the right to make decisions about their own bodies and about the health care that they're receiving. And so when that's limited on a federal level, it really does affect every individual, even in a safe place like Oregon.
Washington Attorney General Nick Brown also joined the lawsuit. The 12-state coalition is asking the court to declare the policy unlawful and block HHS from enforcing it.
Rayfield's office says besides threatening to pull funding, the Trump administration has failed to clearly explain what compliance with the new policy requires. David, back to you.
Yeah, good question. Catherine Cook in the newsroom. Thanks, Catherine. In a follow-up to a KGW investigation, Oregon's governor is now pushing state lawmakers to improve security for EBT cards. It's after multiple KGW stories highlighting how fraudsters were stealing benefits because the existing cards do not have chips.
I mean, to take from people that are already struggling, it's a certain kind of evil.
One of Kyle's many stories there today, the Oregon Department of Human Services and the governor proposed that the state-led fund chip-enabled EBT cards. As we have reported, crooks often skim Oregon Trail cards by secretly attaching a small device to a checkout machine, one that sends card numbers and pins back to thieves who then create fake cards and drain accounts. Now, cards with chips do not need to be swiped, so are safer from skimmers. The proposed upgrade would cost an estimated $12 million split between the federal government and the state. We'll keep you posted on that. If you have a problem or challenge, by the way, you'd like the team at KGW to investigate, you can give them a call anytime, 503-226-5041. That's the tip line, or you can email investigators@kgw.com.